All right, we're back with another FGI podcast, and on this episode, we have Kyle from 16 by 9 joining us. He is the sales manager, and Stu and I are really looking forward to having this conversation. Kyle, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So give us a little bit of background on not only who you are, but also the organization 16 by 9. I know TSM and you guys have done a few partnerships with collaborations rather. And but for the viewers, who are you and who is 16 by 9?
So I am the sales manager for 16 by 9. I started off in the marketing department and kind of just worked my way into being a sales manager, kind of taking over everything. And it felt really natural, I guess, just because of knowing all the products and taking all the photos for a while, just stepping into a sales role. But yeah, we're a U.S. distributor. 16 by 9 is the U.S. distributor for a lot of really great brands. Easy Rig being one of them, yep. Flowcine, Movecam, Noga. We manufacture the Cinelock and a couple other awesome little widgets. And I should also mention Orca bags.
That's one of your newest ones, correct?
Orca, we've been with Orca for a while, but they're trying to step into the camera, DSLR sort of side of things. So we do have a new line from them.
Gotcha.
And,
okay.
But yeah, the 16 by 9 started off as a distributor, and we're kind of the representation for a lot of these companies, which has been really fun to learn. Obviously, some of these companies have some pretty interesting people at their heads, and it's really cool to work with them.
Yeah. So how does that work? Obviously Easy Rig is one of the largest brand names that you guys distribute, but as a distributor, what does that look like? Most people think that the product just gets to these companies that they purchase from, but in reality, a lot of times they go through a distributor like you.
Yeah. So I think the benefit that a company would see in us distributing for them is that we are essentially the face of it. So we do all the marketing, and the most heavy-handed side of that would be maintaining the product. So if you have an issue with your Easy Rig, you come and see us and we'll take care of you. We'll work through it. And that's, I think, the biggest benefit, because if you have an issue with anything, especially something technical like a Flowcine black arm, you're going to need to come to us, and we're going to have very specific answers for you that you may not get from someone who is just selling the product.
Yeah, so it's an additional avenue for product specifications and fixing, and the fact that the product is now in the U.S. means that it gets to them a little faster.
Right. The support side becomes really important to the users, I think, is what it really boils down to.
Yep. All right. And then you said something earlier that was kind of that I want to have you elaborate on. Is it was a seamless transition from marketing to sales for you. Can you elaborate what you kind of mean by that?
Yeah. So 16 by 9 as a company really allows us a lot of flexibility to work with people, to work with creators, and to work with heads of departments at different companies. So that was something I was already doing as a marketing manager over there. So it was really seamless to drop in all those contacts and just start saying, hey, I know you like our stuff and you're taking photos of it and making these awesome videos. Can you buy some? Would you like to start working with us on a more professional level as a dealer? And that was really seamless for me.
Gotcha. Now, Stu, you had a few, when we kind of had our pre-call, you kind of had a few elements for the sales side. You want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think, kind of getting into the industry, you said you're kind of new, just talking earlier, said you were a little bit new to it. Maybe you want to talk about just a little bit like jumping into production, because I know you have a graphic design background. And so, that kind of leads into production and everything like that. How have you found jumping into this industry, in terms of, what you're being tasked to do and kind of the problems that, you solve for production companies and productions pre-production and then, ongoing support as well too.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as production goes, I didn't really have any experience, like I'd said. And so hopping into the industry has been kind of like jumping on a moving train. It's just, there's so much to it. And it's been wonderful to have so many people from this industry teach me things and kind of go through what different aspects are to the filming process. And production wise, I love being able to solve people's problems because they'll come to me with a very specific problem. And thankfully, my chief technical officer, James Lee, has helped me. He's got tons of experience in this. And so it's really cool to have people bring their problems for production and then us just be able to work through it and then work with our distributors to try to find these different solutions for all these unique problems that this industry seems to have daily.
Yeah, well, that's production. We are problem solvers at its base.
Yeah.
It's how many times I can tell you dozens the times that I've been on set and you just feel like you're playing with Legos. Growing up, I have a young son and all he does is play with Lego. Now it's kind of his newest thing, and I feel like when I'm on set, I'm grabbing a Cardellini or an arm for this, and I'm rigging to God knows what, and it's just problem solving and resolving that given issue, and you may not have the same issue twice in a day.
Yeah, it's just the stories that I hear from both sides of production. It's just, they're amazing every time. So everybody's got a really good one.
And you kind of, when you started, time-wise, it was kind of a very odd time for production, right? With 16:9, kind of.
I started the day COVID lockdowns went in.
The day?
Yeah.
The day. I went into the job and I was like, hey, so am I still going to be like have a job here? And it worked out to where, we were working from home off and on, but yeah, it was everything shut down.
How did you plan that?
It was bizarre. It was March 23rd in California.
Oh man.
Do you want to talk? You want to talk just a little bit? Touching on that, I kind of looked at your profile. You want to talk about that because we did a lot of segments on this podcast, obviously, kind of during and pre, kind of leading up to it, and then there was a little space where it was quiet for production, but then it just kind of blasted off. Maybe if you want to kind of touch upon, the last, 2 years in terms of, if anything's changed or just different trends or, you seeing more production, condensed production, what does the landscape kind of look like you from, kind of from day one to today?
Yeah, just to go through it. I mean, like I said, I started the day COVID lockdowns went in as the marketing guy. And then as everything stopped, we stopped traveling. And then I had to kind of hop into that Zoom world and start doing live streams. And all promotion was online. And, you couldn't really get people to go out and do pictures, or on set was kind of a weird thing, I guess, because behind the scene pictures, everybody's masked up or they don't want you there at all. And then I started up as a salesman right as everything started getting lifted up. So it was very much everybody was driving themselves to get out there and just production's back on. Let's go, hit it hard, hit it fast. And eventually I just ended up kind of finding my way through all of it. And that has really led to some cool opportunities like road shows, going to all these different places again. I have a mixer for like an audio mixer event that I'm going to in Austin, Texas. Sorry, I think it's Dallas, but it's just really cool to see people again. And I think that's really gotten everybody back and excited about making movies and making all types of cool content.
With that said, what lessons or tips do you have for the listeners? I mean, with all the experience you've gained, not only during the COVID era, but post, I mean, what it comes down to is we all have to sell ourselves as filmmakers.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's, us personally or a company or product or all three in certain situations. What have you learned? What's one or two pieces of concrete tips that you can provide?
I guess firstly would just be to create content. And if you kind of want to get involved with a company who can maybe support you with products, or you like their stuff, maybe throw a piece of their equipment into yours, or create content directly for them, and then approach them and be like, hey, I made this. Do you guys like it? You can buy it from me. You can send me more stuff, and I can do more stuff like that. And I think that would be my recommendation for people who want to get started with working for a company like us. I mean, we love being able to work with people. It's really cool to see what they can do, and we are allowed to give them a lot of freedom. And I think that would be my recommendation for people trying to get going, is start getting involved with people who can support you along the way. And you don't have to do it for free, but again, just try to make sure that you're looking out for yourself, and that may include looking out for someone else's for a second.
We have some collaborations with you guys, and it's been
Right.
it's been a lot of fun. We're finishing up in collaboration number, I want to say 3. Noga Power Arm. We did the Pat Focus charts. We did the Noka Cine Arm, which was a combination of that and the Power Arm. So that's 2.
Right.
And then we did your beloved Cine Locks, which I'm a huge proponent of. And funny enough, that's what got us to connect with you guys, was the Cine Locks. I mean, I had one on our original F55 here that I bought in 2020, right before the lockdowns. I bought. So funny, you started your day, your new position on lockdown day, and I had bought a Sony F55 cinema body, full kit and everything. I bought that for the company about 3 weeks before the lockdowns. So that camera went out on one shoot and then sat and collected dust for about 6 weeks. So fun times on that one. But ever since then, it's been our workhorse camera. So but the Cine Lock, I bought the camera, rigged it out, and I got a Cine Lock on it, and I absolutely love it. And over the course of a year, the posts we were tagging, and we started talking, whatever the case may be, and now we have some collaborations with you guys. So it's funny that the example that you gave is exactly what we ended up doing to connect with you guys.
Yeah, and the Cine Lock is just such an awesome little piece of equipment. I'm always amazed by it because it's just so well made.
Yep.
And it really has involved me in a lot of ways on figuring out how all this stuff works and all the little pieces and all the things you can do with it. So
yeah, well, you guys are the original Cine Lock too, so gotta give you guys the proper plug and shout out on that one. So even though I will say that we've done a lot of extensive testing, and we'll bring any competitor to the table for a little weight test if they want to try. Oh yeah, that 80-pound. See, I know that 80-pound weight limit is phenomenal, and I have not put 80 pounds on it, but I've definitely put plenty of torque and stress on it that probably equates to that 60 to 80 pound weight limit, just on torque and stress and weird angles and whatnot. So I can attest to it. That first one that I bought is 3 years old and still going strong. Never once has failed us. And then now have 2 others on 2 other camera builds of ours.
Yeah, it's a great little piece of equipment, and it's definitely overtuned for what most people use it for, but I think that's important towards the longevity of something like that you're going to want to rely on every day.
I mean, I would rather it be operational for years to come. Like I said, the original one I bought from you guys is 3 years old, and it was just used 2 days ago, and still going strong. Shows no sign of giving anytime soon. So,
yeah, that's great to hear.
So I guess, kind of being in sales, like, where you're positioned right now, I think personally for me, I'm a big data guy. So, on my daily everything, I'm kind of in that. I'd love to kind of get an idea of, what you're seeing trend wise, a lot of kind of what we try to talk about and, try to bring our listeners is, new trends or ideas or really kind of anything like, just what's on the horizon and what are some of the bigger production companies really focusing on. And I guess, kind of looking at, what you're selling or what distributors are asking for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as far as the industry goes, we're seeing a big uptrend in people who are buying easy rigs and any sort of device like the Flowcine G-Link. People are looking for ways to get that camera off their spine. That's just the main thing is people are losing their backs, and I guess that had just been an industry standard for a while. Guys were like, I put in my 30 years and now I can't walk, but it's becoming more important, I think, especially we're seeing a lot of female DPs and ops come in for easy rigs that we didn't see before. So I think a lot of people are very concerned with making things easier, especially in a production world where you're having a lot of one-man band shows. A lot of people who are just out there on their own with their single camera, and they need to do everything.
Yeah, nice. I guess, kind of going from that, you don't have to go really kind of into any details or anything like that, but do you guys have any insight on, some cool projects you guys are kind of working on, or, details that you can share with us, anything coming up?
Sure. I think I'm okay to share. Easy Rig's coming out with the new product. It's nothing fancy, but it's been something that's been highly requested. It's just a little lens carrier case for the side of your rig for people who, again, want to do some hot swaps. As far as things in the work, I mean, we just upgraded the G-Link to the 1.5. There's really not too much on the horizon. I mean, like I said about Orca bags, they're coming out with that whole DSLR line, so they're bringing their reputation from the audio side because they got famous from making audio bags for all those sound guys, those beautiful weird sound guys. They're it's their trusted brand, and so we're trying to kind of apply that towards our DSLR bags, but
yes,
I think that's pretty much the new stuff.
The Orca component was so it was the week after Thanksgiving. I was on set. It was crazy. I was on set like 7 out of 10 straight days, right?
Yeah.
And Michael, the current marketing manager for 16x9, that's who I primarily talk to. I sent him a message after like day 7. I was like, hey, just so you know, I've run into 3 different audio guys on 3 different projects, not related in any way, shape, or form, and all of them have Orca bags. Just thought that was funny. Hope Thanksgiving went well for you and your family. Talk to you later. Like, it was just, like I said, it was just 3 jobs over like the course of like 5 days. I mean, I was on set a good amount, but I'm seeing them more and more here in Tampa Bay. And it's I hadn't seen Orca bags. I mean, I've been here since moved to St. Pete, Clearwater in 2012, and
Okay.
I hadn't seen an Orca bag until like this past summer, and I'm now at like 6 audio guys in the last 6 months that I've run into. But yeah, 3 of them in the same week right after Thanksgiving. So, and I was talking to all of them, and one's like, oh, I've had it for months. So another one's like, oh, I bought it from a buddy of mine who, he upgraded his setup. And then the one guy was like, yeah, I got this last week. I was like, oh, all right. So like, I mean, his was pristine because he was like, yeah, this is the second day that it's going on set with me. So, but yeah, I was just kind of just talking with them, but yeah, definitely seeing Orca bags more often here. Definitely made it to the East Coast.
That's great to hear.
So I think, we've kind of covered a little bit. We've kind of covered 16x9. We've kind of covered your background. I think kind of our next thing, that we really want to talk about is, just I think, Kevin had mentioned TSM and 16x9 collaborations, right? Can you can either kind of go into those a little bit more, or collaborations you're doing with other companies, or just other field tests or anything like that, so that how do you guys pretty much work with production straight on, not in terms of just selling, but kind of getting that response back, getting like good field tests, and how do you guys take that back in?
A lot of the times it's either people emailing us saying, hey, this is not working right, or hey, this has been great. A lot of the times I think that we're looking for someone who's going to approach us. We're I got to be honest that I'm not going to say we have the best luck approaching people as far as them not really understanding it, especially gaffers and those guys behind the scenes. They're kind of crusty and kind of standoffish, but we're always looking to put our product somewhere that someone is going to actually enjoy it. So if we send it to somebody and they have negative feedback, it's just, I mean, it's so we like hearing it because then we can pass that back on to the manufacturers. Like if there's an issue coming up with these things, like they want to hear about it, you know? So I think, I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It does. And I mean, Stu, if you don't mind, I have actually a good example of that. The Noga Power Arm, right? Which there's, again, but for the viewers, there's 3 models. There's essentially like a shorty that has a higher weight capacity, that middle ground. So for length and weight capacity. And then there's a longer version that has the least amount of weight capacity, obviously because of physics, right?
Right.
So you guys sent us that middle ground option, just to be able to play around with, and we threw that in our studio, threw that on in our grid, put a aperture 1200D and the light dome 2, so a very beefy setup, completely overkill for what we were doing, but we were trying to stress the arm and trying to kind of push it to the limit. We were about, I would say, I want to say we were like 4.1 pounds away from the max weight capacity.
Oh, really?
And
yeah, I can see that.
But we were at a awkward angle, so obviously again torque comes into play, and we probably were at, for all intents and purposes, we were at the weight capacity, and that thing held phenomenally. I was sweating bullets because I'm on a ladder hanging this, talking to the camera. I mean, real time examples that we were given, and I'm sweating bullets. The arm is holding steady, phenomenal. We ended up using it in our studio to get photos of some trophies we recently won. Like I said, it was a completely overkill setup, but we were doing it to have a practical usage and just force the arm. But the one, not necessarily negative, but one major note we had, I ended up having a really good conversation with Michael about that, and he pushed the information along over to Noga. Now, whether that anything's done with that or not, that's not my business, nor really, doesn't really matter to me. But they wanted honest feedback, and we gave it. So I think we all agree when you watch product reviews, when you watch production companies, DPs, gaffers, whether the good gaffers or the crusty gaffers, as you mentioned, giving feedback, you just want to be honest. That's really the biggest thing. I mean, I've clicked away from reviews, tutorials, the anything gear related. I've clicked away if I get a semblance of it being fake or staged or paid programming style, where it's like, oh, this is the best thing since sliced bread, and you're like, no, it's not. Like, it's good, don't get me wrong, but I can tell you're not going to give me the honest feedback. We've all clicked away, right? So that's the biggest thing. And obviously when we do collaborations with you guys, like, we point blank say, like, we're going to be honest. Like, we're just going to be honest. It is what it is. And thankfully, kudos to you guys. You openly say back to us, yes, please be honest. Don't fake, don't lie. We obviously, you guys obviously have interest in wanting the products to be put, shed in its best light, but you also understand that if a product's just not good, it's not good. And it could also correlate to bad sales. You might start realizing, like, oh, that explains why the sales numbers aren't good, is because we're getting all this bad feedback. Like that actually benefits you guys, because then you can talk to those manufacturers and those companies and make a adjustment, so that way there's more sales. I mean, that's the whole point, right? Is to sell the product.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I mean, as far as the online space goes, and it's different compared to being face to face with somebody who's used it. Online, I want the discourse. I know
Yeah.
we want the discourse. We want the good, the bad, everybody weighing in. So if you hated it, tell us why. And then maybe somebody else can weigh in and be like, well, I felt like this or that about it. And maybe this situation worked for me and you're using it wrong. I mean, I want to see everything. And I
Yep.
think that's what most people want to see as consumers. They just want to know that whatever the opinions being given, they're honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I told Michael was going out to a show out in uh, Vegas, or I want to say Vegas, like a month ago, and he called me the day before he left, and he was like, "Hey, like, give me that feedback again," because we had talked earlier, and he's like, say it to me again, because I'm actually going to be talking to someone at Noga at this event, and I want to be able to make sure I'm relaying it properly. So it was nice, and again, maybe nothing comes of it, but at least a voice to that potential problem. And it was, like I said, it was just for production personnel, for people in the field, like the power arm has two 5/8 baby pins on each side, one on each side, right?
Right.
And my recommendation was have a version, doesn't necessarily have to be the only model that's out there, but have a version that has a 5/8 baby pin on one side and a junior receiver on the other. Well, why? Because that Aperture 1200D is a junior pin. So what I had to do was I had to put a baby to junior adapter on it, which that technically was the weak point in that whole setup, was that adapter. And I had to crank that adapter down to ensure that the 1200D doesn't fall to the ground. The arm held steady the entire time, didn't even flinch, but that adapter once or twice was kind of wiggling a little bit on me, but that had nothing to do with aperture. I mean, had nothing to do with the aperture light or the Noga power arm. Had nothing to do with it. It was a third party adapter. So it's like, well, if you make a version that has a baby pin on one side and a junior receiver on the other, then I will feel more inclined using a light that has a junior pin on it.
Well, Kev, I can tell you that feedback did get back because I've heard all this. And I didn't know where it was from, but yeah, Michael definitely
Boom.
mentioned it to Avi, the guy from Noga,
Good.
when we were out
Good.
there.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing is like, again, to your credit, you guys openly tell us, like, be honest. And that's why we like doing collaborations with you guys, is knowing like, hey, we're gonna be able to test out some products and have some fun with some products, but also we don't have to be fake in the process.
Yeah, no, and I think that goes for basically anything. I mean, we've had guys come back and tell me how much they didn't like this or that, and then we work with them. We tell them like, okay, well, you're not using it right. What about like this? And then they're like, oh, I didn't know it could do that. Here we go, and then it changes everything. So.
Well, that's fun. That's I think we've all also used products incorrectly on accident. So good that can get resolved easily. I bet you enjoy getting those phone calls or emails where you're like, hey, quick tweak and you're good to go.
Yep. No, it's always a relief that they just, why is the color that way? Well, I can't change the color, but if you tell me that you can't get it to hold the weight, and I can say, oh, just turn this knob, and they're like, oh, okay. Now it all makes sense.
Nice. EasyRig was kind of the data point that you mentioned earlier. Is there another company, another product that you guys or that you are seeing a spike in sales, different usage? Is there another example you guys can provide to us outside of EasyRig?
Yeah, I think like I mentioned before, you guys obviously the collaboration with us for the pat charts, and we're seeing a lot of people who kind of want to have that DP-esque ability to test their lenses, get that black or gray point on the move. They're a one-man band. They're running around LA with just them and their sound recorder and their camera. So this is something that we kind of saw as an ability for people to give themselves that credibility as far as the testing of their equipment and making sure it's all good to go.
Well, you guys, Pat has that field kit, the magnetic field kit.
Right.
That's the one. That's in my opinion, right? Like, that's just my opinion. But that's the one to have. It's.
Yeah.
Oh, please.
And they're great kits. I mean, I know that if most of these cameras aren't going to go to 8K, but the charts have the ability to do that. And so when you're able to kind of have that credibility, you're like, oh, let me test my camera or whatever and make sure that 100% it's doing exactly what you want it to.
Yep.
That I think is important for a lot of people that are trying to make themselves more of an authority on what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of Reds that go 8K. So if you have an
So
8K
yeah,
camera, you need to be able to utilize that, or whether it's an Alexa Mini, the new Alexa 35, those are 4K cameras, but
right.
those pat charts are gonna work flawlessly for that. I mean, most charts kind of capped out at 1080. You start getting some distortion, and then really, if the chart's giving you distortion, then on back focus or anything like that, then it's not really doing you any favors.
Right.
All right. Nice. Well, those patch charts are a nice, a fun one. We yeah, like we mentioned earlier, we did a few collaborations on those in the field. Tampa International Airport, we did a commercial campaign for them, and we had those in the field with us. And
Oh, cool.
believe it or not, they actually came in really handy out in the field. We legitimately needed it. It was super hot, sunny Florida, hot day, and we needed to pull that out. We attached it to the side of a car using the magnetic plate on the back, and
Yeah.
refocused up. We thought a monitor was going on us, and sure enough, it was just our eyes deceiving us. We were a little hot. It was, like I said, it was in August, and we were sweating. So just double check that the monitor calibration was right. We were good to go, and we were back up and running within like a minute. But having that in our kit, we just let's just double check that we're not messing something up here.
Yeah. I think that's it's a really good point. Is it just confirms what you can't see sometimes, and that's important from a being 100% accurate standpoint.
Yeah, and then the field kit lives in our DZO Pictar Zoom kit, because you can change it from EF to PL, and you can put different shims on for different sensors. So if you need to enable and ensure that the parfocal element in those lenses, which is a big selling point for those lenses, got to make sure it's parfocal from wide to tight for your sensor. So sensor placement and sensor size will depict how many shims you put in it. Well, you need a focus chart in order to ensure that you have full range from wide to tight. So it actually lives in in that lens kit. So that way, when we get to set, if we're using a different camera, we can throw that on anything that's magnetic. I've attached that. I've slapped that on a C stand 4 or 5 times and changed from 0.15 on the shims to 0.28, depending on the sensor, and double check focus, and you're up and running.
I have one last question, and it kind of goes back to the crusty gaffer.
I think I'm gonna have to retract that one in case.
Well, in an earlier question too, I think we were talking about sales data, or kind of who you're seeing, and you had mentioned a lot of new female DPs, and I think that's interesting. Is there like who you're dealing with and who's kind of requesting, your gear? It's like, because obviously our listeners, the idea is to kind of, get in and kind of build your career and, to navigate through the industry. What other positions are you kind of seeing transition over, kind of from like the traditional production roles? Because like you said, a lot of people traditionally, when you get into this industry, you're in there for a long time, 20, 30 years, go by in the blink of an eye. Are there other roles that you're seeing, the demographic change? Like obviously getting younger a little bit, for sure, always. And then, I guess, a second part of that question, or part, B of that is, what are their demands? Kind of what are they looking for? And, we kind of touched upon it earlier, but like, what's changing position-wise, demographically, and, what do they want out of their gear?
Yeah, I guess the first part, I wouldn't say that I've noticed too much trend change, because I really deal with like the end users, people coming in who are either on production and they need something to kind of support the production. They're not in charge of everything. So I will say, like you mentioned, that I'm seeing a lot more female DPs, which is awesome, because they're they just love coming in and like having the gear, and I don't know, but I guess I wouldn't say that I've seen too much change otherwise. Like you said, younger, but yeah, I'm not 100% sure that I know too much change going on. It kind of feels like everybody has been there forever. Every time I talk to somebody, it's like, oh, I've been doing it forever. And that's kind of this cool part of it where you get to talk to somebody for a little while and all their history. And that's really cool because this industry is just so complicated and so deep and so full of characters and stories. So I guess that's not changing. People are still strange and interesting and crusty and just I don't know. I guess that's kind of what I would say. Yeah.
I take all
Still
of
makes
that
it go.
with a batch of pride.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
good. I'm good with all that.
Oh, me too. And like yeah, talking to people at these trade shows, it's just the best. I mean, you never meet the same kind of person. Everybody's so different, and unique, and crazy. It's awesome. It's really awesome.
Actually, do you mind if you dive into communication a little bit more? I mean, being in sales, you came from marketing, you went into sales. You obviously talk to a bajillion and 9 people a week, probably.
Yeah.
What's some advice that you would give filmmakers in terms of communicating to one another, communicating with distributors, communicating with clients? Give your sales insight on how people can communicate better and sell themselves better, thus getting more jobs.
Yeah, I guess my recommendation based on kind of my experience, which is very little, so grain of salt, but I would say that if you're going to be talking to somebody in the industry side of manufacturing, just definitely don't take yourself too seriously. We're all kind of figuring everything out at once. And so if you try to approach it like you're worried we're going to be overly professional or overly critical of your work, we're just all trying to figure it out. I think that's what I love about this industry is everybody seems to kind of work each other out and like have a feel for just being people as opposed to corporate entities or yeah, I guess that's probably what I would say. Yeah.
Okay. I like it. Yes, Stu, anything else on your side? I think at this point I've gotten all my questions answered with Kyle.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you coming on and giving us some insight, what
this was really cool.
and what you've gone through and where you're at and 16 by 9 as a whole. It's cool that you and Kev have been able to collab, and I think that that just kind of really illustrates kind of what a lot of companies that distribute products and offer that are really in touch with the people that use them. And I think that ultimately providing that support and being able to provide what you guys do provide in terms of knowledge and communication and feedback and everything like that, it really helps. It really helps everyone involved. So
Yeah,
we appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on. What you're doing is very cool. It's very important, I think, for guys like me that hop into the industry and want to learn everything we can, and to have a source that we can go to and listen to professionals and people talk about the industry in a way that doesn't really happen in a 10-minute YouTube video. It's outstanding and invaluable.
Yeah,
So
you're welcome. You were mentioning earlier that you are going to have a promo code for us. So we're going to put that on screen here in a second, and that's courtesy of 16 by 9. So thank you for that. Use code FGI169 for 10% off products from Orca DSLR, Noga, Pat Charts, Movecam, and 16 by 9. Code cannot be used for products from FlowCine or EasyRig.
Want to tell our listeners where they can find more info?
Yeah, you can find us on our socials at 16x9 Inc. and find us on 16x9inc.com and give us a call, shoot us an email. Let us know what you need, what we can help with, and we're more than happy to help anytime.
Yeah, a lot of cool products. Check out their website often because you all tend to really have something new every few weeks, it seems like. So probably lightly exaggerating there, but that's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, who knows what 2023 will bring, but it's going to be a lot of interesting stuff coming.
Nice. Well, thanks again, Kyle. Really appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, guys. Thanks to all our listeners as well, too. Appreciate it.
That's a wrap on this episode of FGI. It was edited by Ken Davis. FGI is a production of Two Stories Media and Greenlit Entertainment. Subscribe and listen on Spotify, Apple, or wherever your favorite podcasts are.